What if the people who were supposed to love you the most became the very ones who destroyed your life? What if betrayal by your own family was not the end of your story, but the beginning of something greater than you could ever imagine? This is the story of Joseph, a young man sold into slavery by his own brothers, thrown into a foreign prison for a crime he did not commit, and forgotten by everyone except the God who had marked him for an extraordinary destiny. It is a story of dreams and dungeons, of patience and providence, of a boy who lost everything and became the second most powerful man in the world. The land of Canaan stretched under an ancient sun, a place of wandering shepherds and promises passed down from generation to generation. Here lived Jacob, a man whose own life had been marked by struggle and divine encounter. He had wrestled with an angel and walked away with a limp and a new name, Israel. He had 12 sons, but one of them held a special place in his heart. Joseph was the 11th son, the firstborn of Rachel, the wife Jacob had loved since he first saw her at the well in Haran. Rachel had died, giving birth to her second son, Benjamin, and in the years that followed, Jacob poured all his love for her into Joseph. The boy became the living reminder of the woman he had lost, the treasure of his old age, the son of his right hand. When Joseph was 17 years old, his father gave him a gift that would ignite a fire of hatred in his brothers' hearts. It was a coat of many colors, a richly ornamented robe that set him apart from all the others. In that culture, such a garment was not merely clothing, it was a statement. It declared that Joseph was the favored one, the heir apparent, the son who would receive the double portion of blessing. His brothers saw the coat, and they hated him. They could not speak a kind word to him. Every time Joseph walked into their presence, draped in that magnificent robe, resentment burned hotter in their chests. They were the ones who labored in the fields, who tended the flocks in the scorching heat and freezing nights. Yet this pampered younger brother received their father's adoration simply for existing. But the coat was only the beginning. Joseph began to dream, and his dreams were not ordinary dreams. They carried the weight of prophecy, visions of a future that seemed impossible and yet felt undeniably true. One night, Joseph saw himself and his brothers binding sheaves of grain in a field. Suddenly, his sheaf rose and stood upright, while his brothers' sheaves gathered around and bowed down to it. When Joseph told his brothers what he had dreamed, their hatred deepened. They said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us? Are you indeed to rule over us?" The audacity of it was more than they could bear. This boy, this dreamer, imagining that they would one day bow before him. Then Joseph dreamed again. This time he saw the sun and the moon and 11 stars all bowing down to him. When he told this dream to his father and brothers, even Jacob rebuked him. "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you?" But though Jacob rebuked him, Scripture tells us that he kept the matter in mind. Something about the dream rang true, even if it seemed impossible. His brothers, however, were done keeping anything in mind except their hatred. The opportunity for revenge came when Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers, who were pasturing the flocks near Shechem. Joseph set out alone, wearing his beautiful robe, walking through the wilderness to find his family. He did not know that he was walking toward the moment that would change everything. His brothers saw him coming from a distance. They recognized that colorful robe long before they could see his face. And as they watched him approach, something dark and murderous stirred within them. "Here comes this dreamer," they said to one another. "Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we will say that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what becomes of his dreams." But Reuben, the eldest, intervened. "Do not take his life," he said. "Throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him." Reuben hoped to rescue Joseph later and return him safely to their father. His plan was merciful, but it would not unfold as he intended. When Joseph arrived, his brothers seized him with violent hands. They stripped off his robe, that hated symbol of their father's favoritism, and they threw him into an empty cistern. The pit was deep and dry, a hole carved into the rock where Joseph could not climb out. He cried out to them, pleading for mercy, but they turned away and sat down to eat their meal, as if nothing had happened. Imagine lying at the bottom of that pit, the rough stone walls rising above you, the circle of sky growing dim as evening approached, the voices of your own brothers laughing and eating while you screamed for help that would not come. Joseph had awakened that morning as a beloved son. Now he was a prisoner of his own family, abandoned in the wilderness, waiting to die. Then a caravan appeared on the horizon. Ishmaelite merchants were passing by on their way to Egypt, their camels loaded with spices and balm and myrrh. Judah saw them and had an idea. "What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood?" he asked. "Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our own flesh." 20 pieces of silver, that was the price of Joseph's life. His brothers hauled him out of the pit and handed him over to strangers. The merchants bound him and led him away toward Egypt, toward a land of pyramids and pharaohs, a place where Joseph knew no one and no one knew him. He looked back as the caravan moved south, watching his brothers grow smaller and smaller until they disappeared entirely. He was 17 years old, and everything he had known was gone. The brothers took Joseph's beautiful robe and dipped it in the blood of a slaughtered goat. They brought it to their father and said, "This we have found. Please identify whether it is your son's robe or not." Jacob recognized it immediately. "It is my son's robe," he cried. "A fierce animal has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt torn to pieces." Jacob tore his garments and put sackcloth on his loins, and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. "No," he said, "I shall go down to Sheol to my son, mourning." And his father wept for him. Meanwhile, Joseph was being led further and further from everything he loved. The journey to Egypt took weeks, perhaps months. Every step carried him deeper into a foreign world. The language was strange. The gods were strange. The people looked at him as merchandise, a Hebrew slave to be sold at market. When the caravan finally arrived in Egypt, Joseph was purchased by a man named Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and the captain of the guard. One of the most powerful men in the kingdom now owned the boy who had once worn a coat of many colors. But something remarkable began to happen. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man. Everything Joseph touched seemed to prosper. Potiphar noticed. This Hebrew slave managed affairs better than anyone he had ever employed. He put Joseph in charge of his entire household, entrusting everything he owned to this young foreigner's care. From the time that Potiphar made Joseph overseer of his house, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's household for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was on all that Potiphar had, in house and field. So Potiphar left all that he had in Joseph's charge, and because of him he had no concern about anything but the food he ate. Joseph had risen from the pit to the pinnacle of an Egyptian nobleman's household. Though far from home, though aching with the pain of betrayal, he had found a measure of stability. Perhaps, he might have thought, this is where God is leading me. Perhaps this suffering had purpose after all. But the test was not over. It was only beginning. Now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. Scripture rarely comments on physical beauty, but here it does, because this detail matters for what happens next. Potiphar's wife noticed Joseph. Day after day, she cast longing eyes on him. Day after day, she said, "Lie with me." Joseph refused. He would not betray the master who had trusted him with everything. More importantly, he would not sin against God. "How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" he asked her. His loyalty was not ultimately to Potiphar. It was to the Lord who saw everything, even in secret places. Day after day, she pursued him. Day after day, he resisted. He avoided being alone with her. He redirected her advances. He did everything a man of integrity could do. But she would not relent. Then came the day when Joseph entered the house to do his work, and none of the household servants were inside. She seized him by his garment and demanded again, "Lie with me." Joseph did the only thing he could do. He fled. He left his garment in her hand and ran out of the house. But his escape became his condemnation. A woman scorned can become a woman consumed by vengeance. Potiphar's wife clutched Joseph's garment and screamed. She called to the men of the household and claimed that Joseph had tried to assault her, that he had fled only when she cried out. When Potiphar came home, his wife told him the same lie. "Your Hebrew servant came in to me to laugh at me," she said. "But as soon as I lifted up my voice and cried, he left his garment beside me and fled." Potiphar's anger was kindled. Whether he fully believed his wife or simply had no choice but to act, the result was the same. Joseph was thrown into prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. Once again, Joseph found himself in a pit. Once again, he was stripped of his garment. Once again, he was cast down by lies and betrayal. He had done everything right, and everything had gone wrong. He had resisted temptation, maintained his integrity, and honored God. And his reward was a dungeon. By the way, if you find any of these videos interesting or enjoyable, please consider subscribing. These take a long time to make, and it really helps out. But even in the darkness of the Egyptian prison, the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Once again, Joseph rose. The keeper of the prison put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners. Whatever was done there, Joseph was the one who did it. The keeper paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's charge, because the Lord was with him. And whatever Joseph did, the Lord made it succeed. Years passed. Joseph managed the prison with the same excellence he had shown in Potiphar's house. He was still a prisoner, still trapped in a foreign land, still waiting for a deliverance that seemed impossibly far away. But he did not grow bitter. He did not abandon his faith. He served faithfully in whatever position God placed him. Then 2 new prisoners arrived. Pharaoh had become angry with his chief cupbearer and his chief baker, and he had thrown them into the same prison where Joseph was confined. They were placed under Joseph's care, and he attended to them. One night, both men had dreams. When Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw that they were troubled. "Why are your faces downcast today?" he asked. They answered, "We have had dreams, and there is no one to interpret them." Joseph replied with words that revealed where his heart still rested despite everything. "Do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me." The cupbearer spoke first. "In my dream there was a vine with 3 branches. As soon as it budded, its blossoms shot forth, and the clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." Joseph listened and then spoke with certainty. "This is its interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office, and you shall place Pharaoh's cup in his hand as formerly, when you were his cupbearer." Then Joseph made a request. "Only remember me when it is well with you, and please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this house. For I was indeed stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing that they should put me into the pit." The baker, encouraged by the favorable interpretation, shared his own dream. "I also had a dream. There were 3 cake baskets on my head, and in the uppermost basket there were all sorts of baked food for Pharaoh, but the birds were eating it out of the basket on my head." Joseph's face must have grown somber as he understood the meaning. "This is its interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat the flesh from you." 3 days later, on Pharaoh's birthday, everything happened exactly as Joseph had said. The cupbearer was restored to his position. The baker was executed. Joseph's interpretations had proven true. Surely now the cupbearer would remember his promise. Surely now Joseph's deliverance was at hand. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. 2 more years passed. 730 days of waiting. 730 mornings of waking up in prison, hoping that today would be different. 730 nights of lying down in the darkness, wondering if God had forgotten him. Joseph had been in Egypt for perhaps 11 or 12 years. He was now approaching 30 years old. His entire young adulthood had been spent in slavery and imprisonment. His father believed him dead. His brothers had gone on with their lives. The cupbearer had forgotten his promise. And Joseph remained in the pit, faithful but forgotten. Then Pharaoh had a dream. He was standing by the Nile when 7 cows, attractive and plump, came up out of the river and grazed among the reeds. Then 7 other cows, ugly and thin, came up after them and stood beside them on the bank. And the ugly, thin cows ate the 7 attractive, plump cows. Then Pharaoh woke. He fell asleep again and had a second dream. 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing on a single stalk. Then 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind, sprouted after them. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plump, full ears. In the morning, Pharaoh's spirit was troubled. He sent for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt and told them his dreams, but none could interpret them. The most powerful man in the world was disturbed by visions he could not understand, and all the wisdom of Egypt could not help him. Then, finally, the cupbearer remembered. He told Pharaoh about the Hebrew prisoner who had interpreted his dream in the dungeon, how everything had come to pass exactly as the young man had said. Pharaoh immediately sent for Joseph. They brought him quickly out of the pit. Joseph shaved and changed his clothes and came before the ruler of Egypt. Pharaoh said to him, "I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." Joseph's response revealed a humility forged through years of suffering. "It is not in me," he said. "God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer." Pharaoh told Joseph his dreams, and as Joseph listened, the meaning became clear. He spoke with an authority that surprised even himself. "The two dreams are one," Joseph explained. "God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are the same. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears, blighted by the east wind, are also 7 years of famine." Joseph continued, "It is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them there will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten. The famine will consume the land." The doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it about. Then Joseph offered counsel. "Let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh appoint overseers, and take 1/5 of the produce during the 7 plentiful years. Let them store up grain against the 7 years of famine, so that the land may not perish." Pharaoh looked at this Hebrew prisoner, this slave who had stood in his presence for only a few moments, and he recognized something extraordinary. "Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God?" Pharaoh asked his servants. Then he turned to Joseph. "Since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you." In a single day, Joseph went from prisoner to prime minister. Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. He clothed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride in his 2nd chariot, and they cried before him, "Bow the knee." Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. 13 years had passed since his brothers had sold him into slavery. 13 years of suffering, of patience, of faithfulness in the darkness. And now, in God's perfect timing, the dreams of his youth were beginning to come true. Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly. Joseph gathered up all the food of these years and stored it in the cities. He stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. Then the 7 years of plenty ended, and the famine began. It spread beyond Egypt to every land. People from all over the known world came to Egypt to buy grain, because the famine was severe everywhere. And all who came had to go through Joseph. Meanwhile, in the land of Canaan, Jacob and his remaining sons felt the grip of hunger. When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another? I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." 10 of Joseph's brothers traveled to Egypt. Benjamin, the youngest, stayed home. Jacob would not risk losing Rachel's only surviving son, for he still believed Joseph was dead. When the brothers arrived in Egypt and came before the governor who controlled all the grain, they did not recognize him. 20 years had passed. The teenage boy they had sold was now a clean-shaven Egyptian lord, dressed in fine linen, speaking through an interpreter. They bowed before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph recognized them immediately. The faces of his brothers, the men who had thrown him into a pit and sold him to strangers, were now bowing before him, just as his dreams had foretold. But Joseph did not reveal himself. Instead, he spoke roughly to them. "Where do you come from?" he demanded. "From the land of Canaan to buy food," they answered. "You are spies," Joseph accused. "You have come to see the nakedness of the land." The brothers protested. "No, my lord, we are honest men. We are 12 brothers, sons of one man in Canaan. The youngest is this day with our father, and one is no more." One is no more. Joseph heard those words and felt the weight of 20 years of separation. He kept his composure and devised a test. To prove their honesty, one of them would remain in prison, while the others returned home to bring back their youngest brother. Joseph chose Simeon and had him bound before their eyes. Then he gave orders to fill their bags with grain and secretly return each man's money to his sack. As the brothers journeyed home, they discovered the silver and were terrified. "What is this that God has done to us?" they asked. When they told Jacob everything that had happened, the old man was devastated. "You have bereaved me of my children," he cried. "Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now you would take Benjamin. All this has come against me." But the famine continued, and the grain ran out. Jacob had no choice but to send his sons back to Egypt, and this time Benjamin went with them. "Take also your brother and arise. Go again to the man," Jacob said. "May God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, and may he send back your other brother and Benjamin. If I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved." The brothers returned to Egypt with double money in their hands, and Benjamin among them. When Joseph saw Benjamin, his own mother's son, his heart swelled with emotion he could barely contain. He invited them to dine at his house. He seated them in order of their birth, which astonished them. He sent portions from his own table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of the others. The next morning, Joseph sent them away with their grain, but he also ordered his servant to hide his silver cup in Benjamin's sack. Shortly after they departed, Joseph sent his steward after them. "Why have you repaid evil for good?" the steward demanded. "You have stolen my master's cup." The brothers were horrified. "Whoever is found with the cup shall die," they declared, confident in their innocence. But when the sacks were searched, the cup was found in Benjamin's bag. They tore their clothes in grief and returned to the city. Judah, the same brother who had suggested selling Joseph years before, stepped forward and spoke. "What shall we say to my lord?" he pleaded. "God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are my lord's servants, both we and he also in whose hand the cup has been found." Joseph pressed harder. Only Benjamin would become his slave. The rest were free to go home. Then Judah gave a speech that revealed how much he had changed. He told Joseph about their aged father, about how the loss of one son had nearly killed him, about how losing Benjamin would surely bring Jacob's gray head down to Sheol in sorrow. "Please let your servant remain instead of the boy, as a servant to my lord," Judah begged, "and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me?" Joseph could no longer control himself. He cried out for everyone to leave except his brothers. And when they were alone, he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. Then Joseph said to his brothers words that had waited 20 years to be spoken. "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers could not answer. They were dismayed at his presence, terrified that now, finally, the revenge they deserved would fall upon them. But Joseph said, "Come near to me, please." And when they came near, he said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. God sent me, not you sent me." In that moment, Joseph revealed the lens through which he had come to view all his suffering. The betrayal, the slavery, the false accusation, the prison, the forgotten years. All of it had been part of a divine plan too vast for any of them to comprehend. "For the famine has been in the land these 2 years," Joseph continued, "and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God." Joseph fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. Then he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them, and after that his brothers talked with him. Jacob came to Egypt with all his family. He saw his son Joseph alive, the son he had mourned for 20 years. "I never expected to see your face," Jacob said, "and behold, God has let me see your offspring also." The family settled in the land of Goshen, the best land in Egypt, given to them by Pharaoh himself. They were fruitful and multiplied greatly. And when Jacob died many years later, the brothers feared that Joseph would finally take vengeance on them. They sent a message claiming that their father had left instructions for Joseph to forgive them. Then they came themselves and fell before him and said, "Behold, we are your servants." But Joseph replied with words that echo through the ages, words that reveal a heart that had truly forgiven, a soul that had found meaning in suffering. "Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So do not fear. I will provide for you and your little ones." He comforted them and spoke kindly to them. The boy they had sold into slavery became the man who saved their lives. The story of Joseph is not merely a tale of ancient palace intrigue and family drama. It is a story that points forward to someone even greater. Like Joseph, Jesus was the beloved son of his Father. Like Joseph, he was rejected and betrayed by his own brothers, sold for pieces of silver, stripped of his garments, falsely accused, and condemned though innocent. Like Joseph, he descended into darkness, not a pit or a prison, but the grave itself. And like Joseph, he rose to the highest position, seated at the right hand of God, with all authority in heaven and on earth. Joseph said to his brothers, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." At the cross, the same truth was revealed on a cosmic scale. Human hatred and divine love collided, and from that collision came salvation for the world. The evil that crucified Christ became the means of our redemption. And just as Joseph provided bread for a starving world, Jesus declared, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst." Perhaps you have known betrayal. Perhaps the people who should have loved you the most have wounded you the deepest. Joseph's story does not promise that the pain will disappear, but it promises something greater, that God can take the evil done against you and weave it into a story of redemption you cannot yet imagine. Perhaps you feel forgotten, trapped in your own prison, waiting for a deliverance that never seems to come. Joseph waited 13 years, but God had not forgotten him, and God has not forgotten you. Perhaps you struggle to forgive those who have hurt you. Look at Joseph. He did not minimize what his brothers had done. He acknowledged the evil, but he also saw the hand of God working through it all. Forgiveness is not pretending that wrong was right. Forgiveness is trusting that God is bigger than the evil done against you. The God who turned Joseph's pit into a palace is still at work today. He is still turning broken stories into testimonials of grace. He is still bringing beauty from ashes and redemption from ruin. "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Those words are not just for Joseph. They are for you. If you have not subscribed yet, please do not forget to do so. It really helps us continue providing you with amazing videos like this.